Chicory is the eponymous type species in the dandelion tribe of the daisy family, which is formally referred to as the Chicoryoideae. Now, a generation ago, I could never have walked through a field of chicory like this because the plant was rare. In the first edition of the Standard Irish Flora, Webb's Irish Flora, which was published in 1943, the plant is described as rather rare. But by the time of the 7th revised edition in 1996, it had become very rare. The reason being the intensification of agriculture in the intervening decades. Today, however, it would be described as rather common because it is regularly planted in conservation strips on farms for biodiversity, the maintenance of biodiversity, and particularly for bird life. Now, the most distinguishing characteristic of the dandelion tribe is that all the flowers in the flower head, the capitulum, all the flowers in the capitulum are strap-shaped flowers. They're strap-like ligulate flowers. And one big advantage of looking at the structure of the flower in the dandelion tribe, in chicory, is that here the florets, the individual florets, are much larger. There's only a single row of them, so that it's a lot easier to see and understand the detailed structure of the flower than it is in other members of the dandelion tribe. Each floret consists of a white corolla tube 3 millimeters deep that flares out into a bright blue strap 4 times that length. You can easily make out the greenish blue anther tube, the style above it covered in white pollen, the forked stigma at the apex. The pollen is shed into the tube during the night, and when the flower opens in the morning, the piston of the style forces it to the top of the anther tube, where you can see it as a pile of white grains. In due course, the stigma emerges and bifurcates into its 2 branches, keeping the receptive surfaces well above the pollen, but if visitors don't arrive, it spirals round once or twice to pick up its own pollen. Chicory is especially popular with bees and droneflies. But bees are early risers, so they may have to wait a little bit before they can access the nectar in chicory because it keeps strict opening hours. Opening around breakfast time, closing in the middle of the afternoon, unless it's raining, when it always will close. It enjoyed a wide range of uses, culinary uses and medicinal uses in human culture in the past, but the use which is most familiar to us perhaps is the use of the roasted and ground taproot as a coffee substitute. In fact, the coffee served in many Mediterranean countries, in the cuisine of Mediterranean countries such as Turkey and Lebanon, is actually a mixture of chicory and coffee. Those of you who are a little bit older may remember Ireland's first shop coffee, Iril, in square bottles, a dark syrupy substance back in the 1950s and the 1960s. That too was a mixture of coffee and chicory. On its own, chicory is rather unpalatable and very bitter.